Hi, it's me again, and I'm back to share lessons from Genesis 46 to 47. And here we see we see Jacob going back, not back actually, going to Egypt, at Pharaoh's and Joseph's request. And he will see here that God actually endorsed this trip. So the chapter starts by telling us about Jacob's journey to Egypt. Again, after a long time, it seems, God spoke to him in a vision, telling him not to be afraid to go to Egypt, and reiterated his promise of making his family into a great nation. God told him that he'll go with him to Egypt and bring him back again, even though he also told him that he'll die there. So I know that was a bit funny, but we'll see how that really works out. There was a list of descendants of Israel who went to Egypt. And we see that the number of his descendants, male and female, through Leah was 33. The descendants from Zilpah were 16, Rachel 14, Bilhah 7. And one thing I noticed, Benjamin, who they treated like a child, the way they were bargaining for him, was a grown man. He was not a small boy, but he was actually the father of 10 sons. Yes, 10. I wondered how that worked out, because in my mind while I read this, I still saw a young Benjamin. So the father of like almost a football team, yeah? The total amount of Jacob's descendants in the land of Egypt was 70. An emotional meeting between Jacob and Joseph had me in my feelings. I mean, I read it twice, and I just tried to imagine being a fly on the wall. It was very warm. Again, we learn another thing that Egyptians despised: shepherds. So they hate Hebrews and they hate shepherds. But Pharaoh, upon learning that Joseph's family's livelihood was, them being shepherds, he asked that they be given the best land to raise their livestock, and even asked for any of them with special skills, and that person should be put in charge of his livestock. So again, this is, as far as I'm concerned, that spillover favor. Like, Pharaoh wasn't disdaining them. Instead, he was embracing their livelihood. And I'm inclined to believe that this was a really good Pharaoh, eh? Joseph displayed exemplary leadership in the famine as things got worse. He made Pharaoh even more wealthy by taking the people's money, land, and even they themselves, as they offered themselves as slaves in exchange for food. Now, most people would have thought that he was exploiting them, but I could see the sort of end game there, because that dream did say that they were going to preserve Egypt. So he was doing his part to preserve them and making, Egypt a wonderful place, I guess. But then this was what stuck out to me. While the Egyptians and the Canaanites sold all their grain, Jacob and his descendants of Israel were flourishing in Goshen. This was evidence of God's manifest presence, just as he had promised Jacob when he said, I will go with you. So everyone else can be out here starving, but in Goshen, life was happening and things were so good. What was your hashtag getting to know God lesson? Let me share mine. God's presence is everywhere. I guess that's why we call him the omnipresent God, right? But his omnipresence shows that he's everywhere. But here in these chapters, we see his manifest presence. That is the presence of God, where he actually changes situations because he's present in them. So God's manifest presence was in Goshen, and which was why Goshen was flourishing. I hope you learned something good today, especially about our Heavenly Father. I look forward to rounding up the story of Genesis tomorrow, as I'll share lessons from Genesis 48 to 50, and I hope you would join me there. And yay, we are done with Genesis. We didn't drop off, and then we're going to move on to Exodus. I'm so excited. See you tomorrow. Have a good evening. Bye.